the Indian Angel Network, or IAN, a fund that's uniquely differentiated. It's sector-agnostic investment platform. They've closed a capital fundraise of 375 crore rupees. The fund exceeded its ambitious initial target by 25 crores. The IAN fund has been facilitating growth and scale for innovative, high-potential startups through seed and early-stage investments. Let's get in then. Padmaja Ruparal, the co-founder of the Indian Angel Network, right here on the show. Good to have you, and thank you so much, Padmaja, for joining in. Congratulations first up on the fundraise. Was it a lot easier to close this fundraise, considering that there seems to be a lot more optimism now in the environment?
First of all, thank you. Yes, it's been a big milestone for IAN. We have overshot our target corpus. We were raising 350 crores, but we've now well overshot it. And that's good news, not only for us, but I think much more useful and better news for the entrepreneurs at large, because not only would we bring in the money, but I think the fund wants to and is already leveraging its mentor network, its market access, and it's got off the ground by investing in almost 38 to 40 companies. So yes, thank you very much for congratulations.
Oh yes, indeed. Now that you have a lot more, from your new fund to deploy, what is going to be the check size? Is that going to increase? And you've been very sector agnostic. Is that going to be, the bet that you will continue to look at? What is now the new checklist?
Yes, that's true. I think we are sector agnostic, but I think there are 2 or 3 points that I'd like to make. We are looking very sharply at certain sectors like health tech, biotech, med devices. We are looking at agri-tech, water, sanitation, cyber security, fintech, manufacturing tech, apart from deep tech and what I would call data analytics. So I think the ambit is large, and therefore I think there is a lot of filtration, but what we'd like to what we really look for are what I would call entrepreneurs with a passion, who are going to make it big irrespective, and who are catering to a large market with customers whose problems need to be solved with an Indian price point but a global outlook. So I think we have a bit of a tall order, but I think today Indian startups and entrepreneurs are really building companies in India, piloting them, leveraging the diverse consumer behavior in this country, and being able to sell globally. So I think we are on the right path there.
Padmaja, you've been very vocal when it comes to the overall angel tax issue. I remember speaking with you about it as well. Do you think that now the problem is behind us? It has been addressed by the government, because murmurs still indicate that the actual implementation hasn't been all that impressive.
So, the one thing I'd like to first say is I want to thank the government, I want to thank DPIIT, and there have been a lot of focus from different people in the regulatory framework who've joined hands, and the investor and the entrepreneur community. We've got to a point where we are talking about whether it's implementation. We were earlier talking about the angel tax being the devil. So I think we've moved a long distance. I think the angel tax notification earlier in the year does sort of solve this problem, but this has been a very unique architecture, unique carve out that has happened in the CBDT ecosystem, never done before, and I kudos to CBDT for creating this. So I think the implementation does take longer than usual. It's not a switch off, switch on. I think around the country there are income tax officers where this is getting through and percolated, but I honestly feel, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, I get a lot of messages. I think the biggest hurdle is gone. As soon as they're talking about the notification and they're talking about the startup certification and DPIIT recognition, the problem is getting solved. We are hoping that this is now, I think the transition and the teething problem of implementation is behind us, and this will become mainstay in the CBDT system soon. So all in all, I think the large part of the elephant is out. It's just the trickling part which we'll get out soon. So I think, yes, this is behind us.
Okay, good to know that the angel tax issue has actually been addressed, which is something that you were as well championing for. Now, Padmaja, I want you to be frank on this one. While we have seen the funding euphoria that continues, most in the ecosystem say winter is coming soon. When it comes to valuations, do you think that it is unreasonable or unjustified?
So it's a very, very good question and a very interesting point you brought up. Yes, early stage startup funding has increased, angels have increased. We had about 129, 130 AIFs about 5 years ago. Today we are touching almost 550. That in itself will tell you the kind of funding that is now being made available. The fund of funds, SIDBI's fund of funds, as you can see, is already starting to deploy, and quite a bit, very actively so. All of those are good things. I think where the rubber hits the road is on valuations, is the ability of investors to return monies and the kind of returns they make. And that is where company valuations will get pegged, will be a big factor in how they get valued by investors. Ultimately, to be honest, whether they are angels or VCs, they have to return money, and the alpha is necessary. The returns or the IRRs have to be far better than other assets or other market levels, which means that for VCs, for investors, they have to have better than market returns with higher risks. So companies will have to see a lower valuation, number one. And number two, I think with the top line, bottom line focus coming in, there will be some sanity.
So I'm putting you in a spot here. Then are you agreeing that valuations have neared a bubble?
Well, I would respond to that differently. There are, like every human being, there are different types of investors and there are different types of entrepreneurs. So there are entrepreneurs who are building companies on the market share model, where valuations are important, because that's how they will raise money, because they need to spend much more money to gain a share of the market. And that's one method. And there are investors who also want to invest in those companies. The other type of investors and entrepreneurs are those who look at building businesses, solid businesses, and grow them organically and then do inorganic, but it's still with an eye and a focus on the margins. So I would say both exist. You see these trends and waves coming depending on what works, what didn't work. We have recently seen some which have not worked, and therefore we are talking this language today. But through the years, I think both have coexisted.
So lastly then, Padmaja, which are the two new big trends that you're going to place your bets on for the Indian market?
So I think technology clearly is a horizontal, and I think for the Indian marketplace, innovation, disruption, it's important to look at trends which are going to become, give a lot of clinical, fast moving, disruptive and cost effectiveness to startups across sectors. So if you look at agri or you look at sanitation or any of those, each of these will need to be improved and disrupted to create value of a different kind. And I think technology and AI, ML, deep tech will play a role. So clearly technology trends sort of slicing these other sectors makes a big change. The second piece, I think, which will be very important is hardware technology, where we are seeing a lot of hardware getting created, which is much beyond IoTs, where we are seeing drones, we are seeing an evolution in the drone industry, we are seeing underground ground bots, we are seeing underwater drones. All of those are bringing a completely new dimension, creating space as something which is startup fundable. It's creating a completely new paradigm with applications much beyond our imagination. And I think those will be important. But all in all, right now, what we are seeing is we've moved away from the web screen to the mobile screen, and that's going to be our current trend, which you'll keep seeing in the consumer, in the marketplace.
All right. Thank you so much, Padmaja, for joining us. And congratulations yet again on way exceeding the target and being very frank with us, telling us more about valuations and how you're viewing the new trends within the startup universe.